Hello, this is Darren Pulsipher, Chief Solution Architect of Public Sector at Intel, and welcome to Embracing Digital Transformation, where we investigate effective change leveraging people, process, and technology. On today's episode, the importance of security and critical infrastructure with special guest Carla Trevino from Irdeto. Carla, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Darren, and thank you for having me here. I'm excited for our talks.
Yeah, so Carla and I have been working together on a joint effort between Intel and Irdeto. Carla's a solution architect. I'm a solution architect. So we got two real geeky people on today on the episode, which should be a lot of fun. And we're working together on security in the OT space, which is really fascinating stuff. But first, Carla, before we get into the geeky stuff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Carla Trevino, my name. I'm originally from Mexico. I'm currently living in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. I've had an interesting path on my career international-wise. I've lived in several countries. The past 4 years, I was living in Germany. I know very much what it is about working cross-cultural and living cross-cultural, I can say that. I'm an engineer from background, so yeah, geeky would be the nice term. I studied industrial engineering and mechatronics engineering, and after a couple of years of working, I decided I wanted to study more engineering, so I did a master in science in mobility systems engineering, where I focused in autonomous driving, cars, vehicles, and so on. So yeah, I love technology, engineering. That's something that I'm into pretty much.
All right. Finally, a real engineer on the show. I've had others, but it's great to have someone that just, you love learning, I can tell, Carla.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And then also a little bit, you don't know, I'm going to ask this question. What has been some of the hardest things when you move to a new culture? Because you said you've moved to different cultures throughout the world. It sounds like you've been in a lot of places. What's one of the hardest things to get used to when you first move?
I would say, first of all, if you don't know the language, that's a great barrier. So when I moved to Germany, I couldn't speak any German. So that was hard part to start on.
That must have been really hard, yeah.
But getting used to people's behavior, like people acting on different way, the typical things that you don't know, as if, do you have to tip the servers when you go to a restaurant? What are the normal, how do people behave in certain circumstances or things like that? Or critical conversations, like maybe politics, how do people talk about those things? That's hard. And then I always miss Mexican food. So that's all.
I was going to say, I love Mexican food because I live in California and I'm a fourth generation Californian. So we have a lot of Mexican food in California, and I've been to Europe. There is no good Mexican food in Europe.
No, I can only confirm.
So you can confirm that. That's good to know. All right, let's dive right into this. First off, what is critical infrastructure? When we say that term, critical infrastructure, what do we really mean?
Well, when we talk about critical infrastructure, it talks about any open point that can lead, or let me see, how do I not get so technical into answering this question?
You can get technical.
Let's start being basic. So critical infrastructure comes from critical, right? On what can bring chaos if it's exposed. What can be when you're managing something, when you're managing infrastructure, if something goes wrong in certain points or in certain parts, that is definitely something that is critical to start with. We can start with the definition part of it. So any point that can be a trigger for chaos can be considered critical.
So in this case, when we talk about it, we're talking about chaos in the real world.
Yes.
Not in the virtual world, right? This is very different than IT infrastructure. There's very little critical infrastructure in the IT world. in the OT world, critical infrastructure, I mean, people die, right?
Yeah,
If things go wrong, right?
exactly. I mean, chaos on on a people level, let's call it like that. So, I mean, there
Yeah,
can be
there
chaos on
you
the
go, on a
IT
people
world, but
level.
it's chaos that you can solve by fixing some things. When there is chaos on critical infrastructure, or when you're talking about transportation, when there's chaos, people can die, accidents can happen. Yeah,
Yeah, so we've seen an uptick in the importance of critical infrastructure over the last probably 5 years, and a little bit pre-COVID, but absolutely during COVID, we saw critical infrastructure being attacked relentlessly in some cases. Um, have you noticed that too in the transportation world as well? More
definitely.
attacks, more.
Definitely. I think it's a combination of probably people were bored from not being able to be outside and started to get creative. People got I mean, creativity moved into like fears for other people. So probably that was something that was generated for being locked in the time that we were locked in COVID. Definitely this had started before, so we would like you would see certain creativities that would harm or that would look into people just testing out, hey, what happens if I do this? And but this creativity, I think, went beyond what we had seen on the COVID period. It can be a combination of people being bored, of people having more time to get creative while being at home, or of more fears coming out from people's mind and people's mouth.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it. You know, society as a whole was kind of disrupted, right, with COVID worldwide, and people started toying around. I think boredom was part of it. Um, I also think with more people working from home, we also increased the attack surface. So now there were more people working remote. Even people that were working in managing critical infrastructure were working remote now. And I think that broke down some of the security measures that we used to keep in place.
Definitely. And I mean,
What are your
the
thoughts on that? You
companies,
think
I
that?
mean, I can only agree. And I think the fact that the companies had to adjust so quick to everyone working from home, they had to adjust their networks, they had to adjust the workloads, they had to adjust so many things, and on a short, like we can say, on a very, very short period of time. And this opened the possibilities for attacks into different levels than before, because then if you were living in a building and you had 20 apartments, let's say, in that building, you could have access, or you could have a potential, like you knew everyone was there and you knew everyone was working, and you probably talked to your neighbors before. So it opened up the possibility of getting into more layers than it would have been before.
So let's talk specific. Let's drill down a little bit into transportation, specifically, and how has that changed over the last 3 or 4 years, and what kind of threat vectors and what kind of threats are we seeing in that area?
Well, I would talk about maybe, yeah, what has happened is transportation is becoming more connected. You have more services that are being offered, you have more connectivity in vehicles, in infrastructure, and with connectivity, there always comes the potential. I mean, there comes all the beauties that there is with them. You can control them, but if you can control them, you can control them for the good or for the bad, right? And this
Gotcha.
comes, I mean, this comes from the services that the providers are giving to the final customers, those that are being transported, that they want to have more digital services, but also the services that are being offered to the transport suppliers or providers from their suppliers themselves. Everyone wants to become more digital. Everyone wants to have more connectivity, more access to data, more access to information. And all of that comes with opening your transport network, which was formerly not open. So, what we know as air gapped. So, it was not connected, it was safe per definition.
Right. So, and I think this is interesting because you said services to the customers. So services like Wi-Fi on the train, other digital services like streaming, video and entertainment, all those sorts of things. I think people don't understand. All those sorts of things provide unique connectivity to do that, right? And what you're saying is they've broken down that air gap that originally the train was connected, but that was control systems. Those were critical systems, right? Controlling the train. All of a sudden, those there's connectivity between those critical infrastructure and also all this other connectivity that I have. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly the
So
point.
so why not just use the IT security stuff we've been doing for years and just put that on the train? Why doesn't that work?
Well, there are several aspects to that. First aspect is when you talk about IT, when we talk about like the devices that are using IT and the world of IT, we can say it's a world that it's pretty standardized. That's not true for the OT world. We have a huge ecosystem with huge differences in devices, fielded devices, and such that are following different protocols that are implemented on different, even if you go like internationally, every country has a different way of implementing and so on. So it's not standardized, it's not homologized, and therefore from that side, it's already a very different level from the IT. Second level is what we discussed before, the differences in critical infrastructure, in talking about, well, if you're on the train and you're a person and something happens to the train, well, there's a possibility of persons getting injured
Yeah.
or worse. So you have to, from one side, handle it on a different level because you're talking about different things completely. And why are you talking about different things and the complexities that come with that? Go with the standardized, the different devices, the different everything that there is.
Now that this I love how you said it's not standardized, so it's highly heterogeneous. So I can't apply just one security standard and just go, well, everyone needs to just follow this. So that's one aspect, and then the other one I kind of want to pick at a little bit, and that is if there's a problem in your IT network, a security problem, I isolate it and I quarantine it, right? And then I shut it down. I can't do that in critical infrastructure, can I?
No. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to
I-
isolate a train and shut it down? And I mean,
yeah, that's a big problem, right?
definitely,
You can't just shut it down and move the workload somewhere else. It's on a physical device.
and you cannot freeze it until we see what's going on.
So the approach, it sounds like the approach in OT and critical is very, very different.
It is. It is. And I think this is one of the things that the industry and everyone around it has to, first of all, understand why it's different, but also understand the differences between IT and OT. I think sometimes this is not so clear for certain persons, or, yeah. So, first,
Well,
while
especially if you're a cybersecurity expert, right? If you're a cybersecurity expert, you just come in and say, "Oh, it's a cybersecurity problem. This is what we do," right? We identify, we detect, we quarantine, we do forensics on it. Then you can't do that in OT, so it's a completely different space.
exactly, yeah.
So this sounds to me like a disaster just waiting to happen, right? We've collapsed the OT and IT networks together. in some aspects because I want more connectivity. I want more data coming out of those trains to run analytics on. And at the same time, we've seen an uptick in cyber threats and cyber malfeasance, if that's a word. Um, and so, and people that don't have a real good knowledge on how to do OT security. Sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Is that true?
Well, we hope we don't get to that point. So this is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to work together with the industry, educate on the complexities, educate. We don't want to bring fear. It's not about bringing fear to the industry. It's about opening the eyes before the disaster happens and looking at cybersecurity. I mean, we sometimes do this comparison. It's a sad comparison, but you can see cybersecurity kind of like an insurance. You don't want to have the insurance after your house burned down. You want to have it before it
Right.
burned down. You want it not to burn down, of course.
Yes, you don't want it to burn down. Yeah.
You don't want to get to the point where your house is on fire. But if your house is on fire, you want to have an insurance. And
Right.
this is exactly, well, cybersecurity is going to prevent the having the fire, let's say. So I mean, it's a different level of complexity, but we think there's a lot of education that needs or that is happening that at the moment, and we're working together with a lot of players. And I think this is, I mean, the cybersecurity on the OT side, I think we are all on the same side. We're all wanting to educate the industry to help them be aware of what there is so that they consciously decide that they need something and take preventive measures before that something happens.
These attacks are getting more and more complex. Does that mean if I do have critical infrastructure that I need to hire a cybersecurity expert, or I need to hire a firm to help me do that? Or can I do it on my own? Is it can I educate myself to do it on my own or not?
Well,
What would you say?
I would say it's very hard to educate yourself in topics that you don't know. So, from one side, I mean, if you're confident that you are an expert on the matter and that you can do it on yourself because you have the expertise, then it can be that you build it. But if you're trying to say, hey, this is something that I mean, you need experts, and experts are only gonna be experts if they've done it before, if they know what they're talking about. So there are, of course, standards, which is, I mean, we all work on, I mean, industry works on standard basis, right? Sadly, what we're seeing today is that the standards are running behind the development that is coming with the industry. So, of course, you can follow, if you want to develop things in-house, you say, well, I'm following the standards that are mandated. The question is that enough?
Is that
And
enough? Yeah.
if you're not
Yeah.
able to answer that by your own, probably you don't have the expertise to assess what kind of cybersecurity solutions you need, what kind of protections do you need, where are your vulnerabilities, and things like that.
So this is where Irdeto comes in, right? You guys have a long history of securing critical infrastructure. And so I'm sure you guys have seen an uptick in business in the last couple of years. I would guess you have. Is that true to see?
Yeah, well, Irdeto, it's a company that started doing cybersecurity 50 years ago, and that is 50, not 15. So we've
That's a long
built,
time. Yeah.
it's more than I've been alive, I can tell you that. So we have experts and we have expertise that has been evolving as industries have been evolving, as these malicious attacks have been evolving, and there's no endpoint to this. There's going to be new ways of, people are going to get more creative as technology is advancing, and there's going to be new ways of attacking. But companies like our company, we are a company, we have around about 1,000 employees, but 70% of them are in research and development. And they're looking into what kind of attacks exist today, but also what kind of attacks can exist in the future. And we're doing research into that. And we're making sure that we are future proof. We want to be one step ahead. We want to make sure that our customers are going to be protected, not only the moment that they get a secured system, but also as the system is evolving and the new use cases are coming, that our services are also evolving with them, and that they're going to be secured in the future as well. So it's not something that you just buy and you implement it
You
today.
can't just buy it and say, "Oh, I'm secure," right?
Yeah.
That doesn't. No, that makes sense. And I like how you said. I mean, everything's evolving, right? The cyber criminals are getting really sophisticated. We saw that with the Centennial Pipeline breach. That was very interesting, and there's been several others as well that the people thought they were air gapped, but they weren't, because cyber criminals have figured out how to bridge air gaps now in creative, very creative ways. So, tell me a little bit about the types of you mentioned tools that you guys have, but what's your approach when you talk about securing critical infrastructure? What are the key tenets that you guys put into place, both in process and technology? Because I know you guys do both, right? And so tell us a little bit about your portfolio, what you guys have available to help people.
Well, there is, let's say, there are always the two sides of the story, right? When it comes to, hey, I'm a customer, I need some support. So there are different levels where the customers are. There are customers that really know what they want and what they need, and you can talk very straightforward into the solutions that they need. And this is where we can talk about portfolio, about specifics. So what do you need? Are you talking about you need PKI? Do you need some kind of keys and credentials life cycle management? Are you looking into protecting your network? Do you need an anomaly detection system? These are all solutions that we offer. We offer, for example, software protection as well. But there's also customers that are kind of more into, I don't know what I need. I don't know where I'm
Yeah, yeah.
standing.
You don't know what you don't know, right? That's tough.
So, I mean, we have expertise and we're more than happy to walk with our customers, to walk with with what kind of solutions are there in the industry. There are several practices that you can have that you can implement. For example, when you're talking about, I want to protect my asset, we can make some kind of guidelines, like device hardening to detect where the vulnerabilities are and detect what kind of solutions are needed to mitigate those vulnerabilities that the customers have. So we mostly work on implementing managed services because we do believe that the customer needs us to work together with them and give them a solution, as I said before, not that, hey, here's what you need, put it on your system and there you go, you're good to go. Because the threats are evolving, the hackers are getting more creative, technology is evolving, so we want that our solutions evolve with them. We want to make sure that our expertise is being offered throughout the lifespan the of the asset that we're protecting. But we can also offer what there is before, some kind of professional services that might be needed, so that they're aware of what they need to implement beforehand.
Right. And I love that you guys have that service because you're right. A lot of people don't know how to even secure their critical infrastructure, right? Maybe they just use the Purdue model, which is, oh, I just air gapped it. And then someone walks in with a USB key and sticks it into a device, and all of a sudden you got malware spread throughout the whole OT network. And we've seen that time and time again. So you guys understand the criminal, let's call them what they are, or the nation state that's trying to disrupt your critical infrastructure. So it's good to have you guys come in and kind of do an assessment, right? This is where you're at. These are the tools that you need, and so on and so forth. I love the approach. I think it's very valuable. If people want to find out more about this approach and what Irdeto can bring to the table, where do they go?
They can start going to our website. That's Irdeto. You spell it IRDETO.com/connected transport. There you can find some information about our products. Definitely. There's also an option to contact us directly from there. And then you can we can schedule a first call to get to know you, that you get to know us, and that we start understanding what the requirements are. So, I mean, you can get a good understanding of our products from the website, but don't be shy to ask for getting in contact with us, and we will make sure to give that information more in accordance to what the customer specifically is needing, or the company.
Oh, that's great. Also, you guys, we work together. Intel and Irdeto are working together so that you guys can even make your tools even more secure by using Intel's technology under the covers. So, a great partner, Irdeto. And Carla, thank you. It's been very enlightening today. I learned a lot of things.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, I'm looking forward into our collaboration. I think bringing security foundation from hardware plus adding extra layers of software on the security in top of it, what Intel has to bring plus what Irdeto has to bring, will definitely help the industry get one step further into being more secure.
Thank you for listening to Embracing Digital Transformation today. If you enjoyed our podcast, give it 5 stars on your favorite podcasting site or YouTube channel. You can find out more information about Embracing Digital Transformation at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, go out and do something wonderful.